this is a beautiful dialogue that we are witnessing today among people who are really the thought leaders of the country. In a country which is going through a lot of turmoil, hopelessness, but we see a lot of people who are really holding the fort, giving promises that the country has a lot to deliver, and it has a lot of potential to really show its resilience once again, and inshallah, prove to emerge much stronger than what we have seen in the past. So my name is Shahzad Shahid, and I am Group CEO of TPS. It's a payments technology company. I'm also part of PASHA, which is IT Association, among other occupancies that I carry. We'll be talking about how the world is changing with technology, and particularly talking about in the context of Pakistan. So before I begin, I'm sure most of the people here, or at least half of you, have been on Facebook. All right, I've noticed that regardless of the age group, Facebook and WhatsApp are something that people have adopted largely. So there was this popular meme that came out on Facebook. It's about friendship ended with Mudassir. There was this photograph of a young chap and there's a cross on it with a red thing, right? It became very popular, I think, a few years ago. Something you just see and say, big deal about it. It's something that guy doesn't really know English or whatever, right? It's come through some tier 2, tier 3 city. But that meme was eventually sold in Metaverse at 20 Ethereum tokens, which was roughly 50 lakh rupees back then. Now this is Pakistan. This is crypto. This is NFT, and this is digital economy. So we're talking about a country which is going through a lot of digital adoption already without us possibly acknowledging it in the way of online conversations, video calls, Zoom, Teams, and all these elements. So as we begin, let's first take a stock of how the different organizations and these amazing individuals have acknowledged what they have acknowledged through technology and the impact that they have created to businesses, government, and individuals and a common man. Starting with Asif Peer, he doesn't really need any introduction. He is leading the largest IT company of Pakistan, Systems Limited. I have witnessed its growth when he took charge of the company, grew it, mashallah, at a scale that we all love to see all companies grow. So starting with Asif. Asif, Systems has been behind a lot of digital transformation projects and a lot of exciting IT projects, right? So far, how much real impact do you think you have created to businesses, government, or how your projects can be seen or felt by a common man in Pakistan?
First of all, thank you, Management Association of Pakistan, for inviting me and as a part of esteemed panel. Thank you, Shahzad, for kind intro. So to answer Shahzad's question, I think it's in today's world what I would like to start with one line. Everybody, like whichever company you work, and what I have seen the companies have done globally, they focus on like this. I'll start with, don't build a digital firm, build a firm for those raised digitally, right? So I think we have seen the population change. We have seen what young generation needs, how the users will act with the banks or any government or any services that you go abroad. Of course, Pakistan is, we are just getting towards it, but we are way behind. But whatever and wherever you go, it's all digital first. So I think in our country, what I would like to say that we have to build a digital culture. And what digital culture is all about in our organization. Digital culture is how an organization embraces digital technology of getting things done inside the organization. So if you have digital culture in your organization, then it really changed the game. And what digital culture comprises of, like what are the attributes of digital culture? In your organization, how you build that digital culture, right? And how you do the digital transformation. One, you have to have agility, and you have to have customer centricity. You have to make data-informed decision making. You have to have collaboration or collaborative attitude, and you have to have digital-first mindset. So when we talk about digital transformation, you must have heard enormous time digital transformation, AI, whatever, right? But if you sum up in a simple terminology and simple definition what digital transformation aims at, what everyone needs to do, whether it's government, whether it's public sector, whether it's education, you want to optimize your operational efficiency at the back office, and you have to enhance your customer engagement at the front office. So when you are talking about, I think you must have heard that about this quote as well, I have the best product in the world. It's not about the best product, it's about the best solution. So, and when you change your culture and mindset about that, what happens? You come closer to the customer. You solve the real life problems. You create an ecosystem. And always for those startups and young generation, young people, when you are thinking about the startups, when you are thinking about problems, look at in your ecosystem and go with the simplicity approach. I think simplicity is the key. Like agility, simplicity, and customer centricity. Are you solving the customer problem? Is it sustainable or not? When you're talking about like solving any problem or creating any digital organization, you have to think whether it's scalable and sustainable. If you don't, then of course you can solve a complex problem in a very complex way, but you reach at the point where you think, how will I be able to scale this? Will it be sustainable, right? So I think this is what I have seen, and I think in Pakistan, of course, we have a lot of room to do. As we are the largest exporter, I see that every organization, I think Shahzad will talk about metaverse, NFTs, blockchains, AI, augmented reality, all of these nice concepts to have. But every organization today, in today's world, whether it's a bank or any institution, they are still doing and thinking digital first mindset, and digital transformation is the core pillar. And I hope that we in Pakistan, all the organization, instead of going through subsidies route, they need to think that how we can be more productive by using the technology, using the digital transformation, using all of these things and become more competitive globally versus just doing subsidies and other stuff. So technology is the only thing that can drive you to that direction and make you competitive towards the global environment and the global scale. And when you are especially competing for export business, right? So that's what I would like to say.
Thanks, Asif. Somebody said, and very rightly so, that CEO of any firm is a CTO, which is Chief Transformation Officer, because the change is led by the guy at the very top. So digital transformation is not only a nice to have vision statement, mission, or goal. This, like Asif said, it's a cultural change, it's a mindset change, because this is not only done by technology, this is using technology, implementing it for the real use cases, and adopting it wholeheartedly, and evolving it as the situation changes over time. So we have Asif Aziz with us. Asif, I want to go to Asif Aziz first because, by the way, Asif has to leave for airport, so I need to focus on him, if you guys all agree. So next 10 minutes to Asif. Asif Aziz, by the way, you've got a panel which lacks diversity big time. All men and 3 Asifs on the panel. So Asif Aziz is Chief Commercial Officer at Jazz. He's a marketing guy, come from, spent some time in UK, worked in Africa for, I think, over 7 years he's working with Jazz. So Asif, Jazz is the word telecom does not do justice, right? I think it's a sector that is really impacting a lot of things, businesses, government, individuals. In your opinion, Jazz is technology company, right? What do you think you have achieved so far in transforming the lives of a common Pakistani?
Thank you, Shahzad. Thank you, Management Association of Pakistan. Jazz is the enabler for digital Pakistan. We are the bearer service that everybody has to use in order to access what I call digital Pakistan. You know, just picking up on one very small example of what we have done. There is one very small startup run by a lady from the northern areas that I mentored. She has a shop online, and she wanted to use Jazz's platforms to be able to sell products that she and her locals make by hand in her area, and she was concerned how would she distribute and sell these products. One very intelligent entrepreneur, mentored by Jazz and by us, and now she's selling her products all over the country of Pakistan, and she's getting all her revenue and income through the Jazz Cash application. That's just one very small example of how one individual's life and an area's life has been transformed. But actually, I don't think we've done enough yet. There's still only, and I have to say this, only 100 million users of internet in this country. With a population of 220 million, there's still 120 million that are not connected and that are not online. We have to get to them as well. If I then further distill that down, most of those people who are unconnected are actually women. So we have a very big drive to be able to connect women and the other half of the country to be able to get access to digital. What is the digital? Honestly, I find it really odd that I have to carry a wallet in this country. Having spent all my life in the UK and in other markets around the world, I was not familiar with the concept of carrying cash. I have a digital wallet for wherever I go, so I actually have one less thing to worry about in life, which is to carry my cards. Public transport that I'm going to use, taxis that I'm going to use, vending machines, shops where I'm going to buy coffee or anything, can all be paid using my mobile phone. Not here. We can have two theories now. First theory is we are a different breed of human, and this technology will never arrive, and it will circumnavigate around us. Or the second view, which is, oh my goodness, 220 million people, what an opportunity. I actually think we're sat on the precipice of an enormous opportunity of digital revolution. It needs to be enabled. I agree on that point. There are economic challenges that are preventing some actual actions to be taking place right now, but we're sat right at the precipice of being able to launch much more prolific things. I just want to take one more minute because I need to explain something else as well. I actually think social media marketing has become more important than websites. Instagram, Facebook, these meta apps, all these apps are actually not social media, they're actually shop fronts. We're now treating these not as a page to put up a meme about a cricket game, but actually how do we have a meaningful and interactive conversation with our customer? Some of our customers are choosing to interact with us purely through these platforms. That's a choice. So we've now realized that actually these platforms, whether it be Pinterest, whether it even be LinkedIn, whether it be any of the social media platforms that you can think of, they're actually my shop fronts. So they're actually an opportunity to engage. And not only an opportunity to engage, we as consumers are probably shopping from some of these platforms. Shops that we've never heard of, shops that have no physical presence, but we're actually interacting. So where are we? With only 100 million people connected online, with probably only about 20 million people using Instagram, and I know the numbers, probably about 20 million people using some of the other apps. Facebook and WhatsApp are a little bit more prolific. The opportunity is enormous to be embraced. I don't think the physical world will disappear. I think consumers would still like to have physical touch points. We came from a physical world and we've entered into a digital world. And our omni-channel experience is now what I class internally as phygital, with physical and digital being merged together. So I think this is only the beginning. Jazz is an enabler for these things. We have a long way to go. I cannot say we're even halfway done. I think we've only just started.
Yeah, I think I fully agree on that. Just one more question before I let you go, right? Because you have to fly to cash. And that's about 5G, right? The world is fighting about 5G and the kind of speed of data and the use cases that will come out of it. What is Pakistan telecom sector doing about quality of data connectivity and speed of connectivity, and how you think it's going to really create the transformation that I believe every single person sitting in this place will eventually benefit from?
So 5G will be an excellent enabler of new technologies as well. When 4G arrived, Meta didn't exist. And then Meta came afterwards once the platform was available. I think 5G is facing a similar conundrum where it is a technology platform led by some vendors and governments thinking we can make some money through auctions of spectrum. I think it's more important to have a conversation about 4G for all rather than 5G for the few. The handsets are very expensive for 5G. I can tell you confidentially, which is no longer confidential, that probably more than 65% of my customer base has a handset that's less than 20,000 rupees. Unlikely to be a 5G device. 5G devices start at around 300,000 rupees. So I don't think we should think about 5G as a service just for the elites. We need to have 4G for all. With only 100 million people connected and many of the women unconnected, I think it's more important to have a conversation on how do we get 4G penetration up. In the countries where 5G has been launched, 4G penetration reached above 80%, and a lot more of the network was connected to fiber on the backhaul. It will be okay at the front end to be able to give you 5G, but the customer will not be able to use it because the backhaul doesn't exist, connectivity back to the internet. So it is important that we build some infrastructure in place, and I think the conversation of 5G is a little premature right now. Some of the applications have not been refined, and I think in this country, we need to get everybody onto a smartphone as opposed to getting people on 2G feature phones, which still happens.
Right. I think that's a perspective, but I really would love Pakistan to be adopting those technology, and the cost of device and the infrastructure continues to come down, right, over time. I mean, looking at Pakistan possibly in 2030, I would expect that Pakistan will have far more improvement in connectivity, quality, and speed, which is going to really help the real digitization across the sort of, far and wide places of the country, which the telecom sector has a major role to play.
So I just want to make one more point, and I want to make this publicly as well. And I think, I could get into a bit of trouble on this, but I think the first thing we should do is ban 2G phones. Stop their import, stop their production, stop their manufacture. I have yet to find a customer who says, I don't want to access data. I know some people need 2G phones, but 2G phones really need to be discouraged, and actually smarter phones encouraged. I think there is a sweet spot of about 15 to 25,000 rupee phone where the taxation is too prohibitive for people to take this phone, so therefore people are going back and taking the 2G phones. I'm not advocating to reduce all taxations. I think anybody buying a very high-end Samsung or iPhone probably can pay the tax. I'm talking about the 15,000 rupee handset. Encourage more people to have that between 15 and 25,000, so more people can experience data, more people can experience the liberalization that the 4G and internet provides to the consumer.
I think I would so much agree to it that we really have to understand as policymakers as well that data is like, is at the foundation layer of any economy or society today, right? Regardless of the age group, businesses, without data, which is affordable, which is stable, we can't do much about it. The cost has to come down, affordable to even people who really need that, because they're the ones who really need the connectivity because they're anyway disconnected from the urban care life places. Asif, I promise you that I'll let you go at 5 o'clock. Thank you so very much for being here, and sorry for starting a bit late today. So guys, we have to let Asif Aziz leave. Thank you, Asif.
Thank you. Apologies for this.
No. So now we are left with two Asif. It makes it easier. So Ehsan's here, right? I mean, he's one amazing, dynamic business leader. So like HBL says that we are a technology company with a banking license. What do you say about Daraz?
I think if you really, unfortunately, I don't have such a sweet line like a technology company with a banking license. But I think if you look at our mission, it's really to uplift communities through the power of commerce. And I think that really defines everything about our business, whether it's how we look at empowering sellers. And one of the beautiful things that I think in e-commerce in this country is that it's still at its infancy. Right? I mean, if you look at as a percentage of the retail market, it's probably about 1.5% of the retail market. And so there's really only room for us to grow. And one of the wonderful things that you get out of e-commerce is the job creation that comes with it. So on average, there was a study done in India that one e-commerce seller creates between 3 to 5 jobs, upstream, downstream, whether it's on the logistics side, operations, manufacturing, import, etc. So that's 3 to 5 jobs. So, and if you look at a platform like Daraz, and this is just Daraz, you have other great platforms like Careem, Food Panda, by IKEA, many platforms that really empower individuals. We have about 90,000 sellers that have sold on our platform in the last year. So that's at the minimum a few 100,000 sellers. And we talked also, one of the things Asif also mentioned is that you can really scale to across genders as well. So one beautiful example I love from Daraz is that about 20% of our sales actually come from females. If you go to Sadr, you won't see 20% of the stores being run by females. And out of the 20%, almost a quarter of them are operating outside of Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. So it's not just the main cities that women are getting empowered, but really all over the country, women are being able to participate in commerce and being able to really, when we get to our mission and uplifting communities, we're actually able to fulfill it by doing that. And I think the crux of it really has been digital education for us. We have a platform called Daraz University where we educate approximately 5,000 sellers for free every month. Everything from how to write a title, how to put a picture, what does customer experience mean, and really empowering them to break down the barrier of online and offline. And I think that's where, really when we focus on digital is that we're used to going and touching and feeling something before we buy it. So as an online platform, the real struggle and battle for us is to create that trust in online shopping. Is that when you buy something online, you should feel confident that it's the product that you've ordered, it's going to be the quality. So we've done a lot of things over the last few years to educate our customers. Things such as reviews, picture reviews, having Q&A. Now we have something like live stream, which most of you may be familiar with through Cricket, but it's actually a platform really used for buying and selling. And customers are able to really get an understanding from sellers, and sellers are able to explain that, okay, if this is a bottle, it's a blue bottle, it looks like this when you turn it upside down, it spills water. This one fortunately doesn't. And they're really able to engage with the audience a lot more. And I think that's what digital allows. And that's what brings the scale for our platform. So I think that's really how we've been able to get to fulfilling our part of our mission. And hopefully next time I have a nice line like the HBL one does.
Excellent. I think Daraz is very clearly one of the leading. I don't know the size of Daraz in comparison to other top retailers, regardless of physical or digital, but I think digital, you're number one, I know that for the fact, but in terms of all retailers, is this, I'm sure Daraz is going to be the top one, if not one, not online, I mean like generally speaking. Is there any sort of
I think the better way to compare, obviously, when you look at all retail, online is just a small portion, right? It's 1.5%. So even if you're the entire 1.5%, you're probably, still quite small. But what's one point of reference is that on an average month, we have about 17 million people that visit our app. So we're able to obviously, we have about 25 million products on our platform, and really able to cater to an individual and personalize through artificial intelligence the sort of products that they would want. So we can convince you to buy something you may not have wanted to buy a few minutes earlier.
It's an interesting thing. This is about technology, right? So AI is not something that may possibly be very visible to a lot of people. But like I said, when you go on the Daraz mobile app, for that matter, it learns your behavior, and then it starts to present you things that are sort of similar, or what you have sort of, chances of actually getting interested to buy, right? Yeah. So this is the quality that possibly in terms of physical stores, you need to have very smart salesmen to really understand what to present to the buyer and how to quickly help the person buy, right? And this is what's done by technology, scalable to, like you said, 19 million?
17.
17 million, sort of visitors coming to buy. This is a big impact. Is there any data about the age group which is more active in terms of e-commerce?
Yeah, I think in terms of age group, it's below the age of 35 is predominantly what use our platform. And about a quarter of our visitors are female, which is actually one of our big things that we're driving over the next 18 months to change, is to become a much more female-centric brand. Because to be honest, females just make much better shoppers than males do. And so, to focus on the categories that are more attractive to females, like fashion, health and beauty, home and living. So there are generally categories that women tend to gravitate more towards. So as a business, we're also trying to shift more to have a more even split. Because at the end of the day, and this point was made a little while ago, 50% of your population is females. And if you're not solving their problems, then you're really you're not solving the actual purpose of your business.
I think this is brilliant, because so technology has enabled women who were largely many of them could not really go to shopping markets and do the shopping compared to what they are able to do now from the peace of their home, saving time, saving fuel, and taking care of other affairs. Excellent. So, Dr. Shahid, so a very experienced person in infrastructure, softwares, integrations. Dr. Saab, you have seen how Pakistan has adopted technology decades over decades in the past, 20, 30 years. How do you see Pakistan, where do you think Pakistan is leading towards, its capacity to adopt technology, and which areas you think Pakistan is going to really emerge as a stronger, given your experience and your observation?
First of all, I'd like to thank the Management Association of Pakistan for having us here on this panel. Talib Saab, Asfar, Naqvi Saab, all the management. It is indeed, by the time you get to the last speakers, the last panel, you don't know if you're depressed because you've been hearing all the economic talk and everything else. But I am a very optimist. And let me share history, because I think for those who are the younger audience here, I can narrate to history of technology in Pakistan, and allow me just 4 or 5 minutes, because it's very important for us to understand where are we coming from. It was NED University. I have a friend here sitting where we were doing engineering. Salim Mahmud Saab came and gave a lecture on why Pakistan should have a satellite. I'm going back 1982. And I was cheeky enough to tell him that this is wrong. We do not need a satellite. We need to share satellite bandwidth, because we do not have the money to put on infrastructure on the ground. And Salim Mahmud Saab, I got whacked. But I stood by what I said. So having finished my engineering, I ended up working for Cable and Wireless. and we got the first satellite called AsiaSat to position a spot beam on Pakistan. And this was done way back in 1988. This was the first ever in the history private sector satellite that positioned its beam on Pakistan. By positioning the beam, the bandwidth went down. The reason I'm telling you this is because usse pehle we were using Intelsat, and we used to use 30-meter dishes. This brought the dish size down to 1.9. Why the dish size was down? Because you had a spot beam that put power, and when the power went in, it actually reduces the size of the dish. Pakistan, we must all bear this in mind from the telecom and data perspective, is a very tricky country when it comes to infrastructure laying. 50% of Pakistan is terrain-wise very difficult to install optical fiber. Therefore, when it comes to optical fiber, there is one side of Pakistan that needs to be addressed. Then there is the other side of Pakistan, if you want to keep the balance, that needs satellite and wireless communication. You will be shocked how wireless communication came to this country. I was 26 years old. I was in Hong Kong working for Cable and Wireless. We had just finished the spot beam over Pakistan. I was newly married. This is way back in 1986. And these guys were bar hopping. And I was like, okay, guys, it's 9 o'clock in Pakistan. I've got to go. 12 बज गए थे हांगकांग में. मैंने कहा जी क्या करने जाना है आपको? मैंने कहा भाई मुझे होटल के कमरे में वापस जाना है. कहा जी क्यों जाना है आपने वापस? मैंने कहा जी इसलिए कि मैंने फ़ोन करना है. I have to call my wife, ask her how she's doing. ये वो. They said तमाम you want to go back to your hotel? ये फ़ोन पकड़ो. उसके बाद एक ब्रिक फ़ोन था, उन्होंने मेरे हाथ में पकड़ा दिया. उन्होंने कहा ये फ़ोन पकड़ो, जाओ कॉल करो. I said ये क्या है? उन्होंने कहा मोबाइल फ़ोन है, तुम्हें नहीं पता ये क्या है? मैंने कहा नहीं. So I sat there, dialed the number, and I didn't know how to put the send in because I'd never used one. I'd used a cordless, but never. So I came back, I said, yeah, because चलता ही नहीं है. They said, नहीं चलता है, तुमने send press किया था? मैंने कहा नहीं. उन्होंने कहा इसलिए तो कह रहा हूँ अक्लमंद टेक्नोलॉजी में काम करते हो, तुम्हें ये नहीं पता send कैसे. And that was the night, I was 26 years old, 19th October 1988, पाकिस्तान में जब मैंने आके लाइसेंस लिया to operate, Paktel was the first company, Pakcom was the second company. Now this is where the tragedy of this country starts. They gave us a license, they did not understand shit about telecoms. I'm telling you very clearly. They gave me 333 megahertz of bandwidth free for 15 years. And you know, सवाल क्या था? अमेरिका में कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजी चलती है? मैंने कहा सर एम्प्स चलती है. उसमें क्या होता है? मैंने कहा सर एक A बैंड होता है, एक B बैंड होता है, कंट्रोल बैंड्स दैट मैनेज द फ्रीक्वेंसीज, 660 मेगाहर्ट्ज. सो सुल्तान और आरफीन साहब, आरफीन पाककॉम मुझसे बड़े हैं, उनको आप A दे दें, मुझे B दे दें. And he actually did it. When I was walking down the steps, I said, what a country. Like यहाँ पे तो मतलब खुली छुट्टी है टेक्नोलॉजी में. We got the license. Unfortunately, the government changed its policy. In 1988, Cable and Wireless, when the dollar was at 18 rupees or 9 rupees, 18 rupees, invested $100 million. और फिर जो हमने गत बनाई, उस वक्त हमने उनको कहा ये इंडस्ट्री सिर्फ 2 मोबाइल कंपनीज बर्दाश्त कर सकती है, इससे आगे हमारी कैपेसिटी नहीं है. We became the R&D bag of the Chinese. They brought in 5 साल के लिए किट ले लें, बाद में पैसे दे देना. We brought what was a model of 500,000, we brought it down to 0. Today we are back to 2 companies. Ask Irfan Wahab, ask Aamir, how are they feeling? Here was an ARPU of 68 with 500,000 people, $68. Today it's not even 68 cents. So the technology was there. We had adopted it. The policy makers did not understand technology. Now this is where you need to fix the first problem. That if infrastructure and technology re-imaging has to be done, our policy makers have to understand that this is not a tax collection device. This is not a device where you bring. Now, when you talk about 5G, let me fast forward. 5G cannot be implemented in Pakistan simply because 5G needs internet bandwidth at the back. And if it is internet bandwidth, it also needs power. 5G का difference ये है कि 3G अगर 3 है, तो 5G 100 है. और 2030 में 6G आ जाएगा, वो 1000 है. This is the speed at which you will transfer data. अब data हम संभालते कहाँ हैं? ठीक है? So यहाँ पे सुबह when you mentioned about ChatGPT, Let me show you the trick of ChatGPT, and why I'm showing you this. This is for the younger generation. We are crying that this country has gone to the dogs. It has not gone to the dogs. I have seen worse in my younger days. आप मुशर्रफ साहब की बातें कह रहे थे आज सुबह. We were down to $500 million as reserves. We are at 3.5. He took the country to 17 billion. I'm not saying I'm a politician. I'm not saying. He just framed the things right, got the right people to sit and said, do it, and it was done. Now, let's go back to infrastructure. If we want our youth to be able to be enabled, here are the things that you're doing. You have 1,000 kilometers of coastal area. 1,000 kilometers of coastal area has 9 submarine cable landings. Why are these 9 submarine cable landings coming here is because China also knows that you have to pull the cable up from here. That cable, when it goes through, you have the motorway, you have the infrastructure in place. अगर हमने sustainability की बात करनी है, then we have to focus on 2 other factors जो panel हमसे पहले था. Number 1, बिजली cannot be afforded at the price that we are doing. Bring it down, then only technology works. Number 2, build the infrastructure in place in such a manner that you can utilize that technology. Now, databases पे हमारे पास internet exchange points पहले एक था, अब दूसरा चल रहा है. This is another thing that we need to manage data. ChatGPT ने क्या किया? And this is where I come to the economy side. We are in debt of 222, 225 billion. And we are crying our eyes out कि पता नहीं क्या हो गया. We are the 5th largest country in the world. We have a youth population of 60, 80 million kids under the age of 30. And we are crying कि पता नहीं क्या हो गया. ठीक है? Here is ChatGPT. 35-year-old Samuel, dropout from Stanford, gets the backing. It's a race between Microsoft. ChatGPT is a race between Microsoft, Bing versus Google. कौन पहले Google को वो किस तरह नीचे करेंगे? Google भी दूसरी तरफ से काम कर रहा है. ChatGPT actually came into existence in 2018 as an algorithm from OpenAI, backed by Microsoft and Google, Elon Musk. 2018, it was doing pattern recognition of 117 million patterns, machine learning. 2018. ChatGPT 2 went to 1.2 billion. ChatGPT 3, which you're looking at right now, 3.5, अब 4 भी launch हो गया, जो किसी को देखा ही नहीं है किसी ने. But that went to 175 billion patterns. In 2023, it is touching anything between, they don't want to disclose it, patterns 1 trillion to 170 trillion. This is how fast this thing is moving. Now let's take it the other way, economics. Spotify took 150 days to get to 1 million subscribers. Okay? Instagram, 75 days. ChatGPT, 5 days. 5 days में 1 million subscribers. 30 days में 57 million subscribers. In 60 days, it was crossing 100 million. Company that got invested $1 billion has a backing of $10 billion from Microsoft and Elon Musk. In 2 months, 23rd of January, evaluated at $29 billion. $29 billion. Okay? This is how technology changes. Now, what is it doing? What is GPT? Okay? You have to understand, it's pre-trained transformer. It's a pre-trained transformer. It is crawling books, everything, putting it together, and then giving you answers. And बच्चे उसको अभी theses लिखने के लिए, universities के काम करने के लिए इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं. But here is the bright side. When we talk about Pakistan, Daraz being, a classic example, and if you look at Alibaba as an example, you will be shocked at the pace at that which they move. But just talking about e-commerce. $5 billion worth of e-commerce is happening in Pakistan today. Correct me if I'm wrong. 5 billion. Okay? It has doubled in 2 years. Doubled. This is how fast. We were 32 million people using social media in 2020. In 2023, we are 72 million people using social media. Adoption of technology is there. हम unfortunately Twitter से गिर के TikTok पे आ गए. Now this is a dangerous sign. If you do not educate your people, if you do not school them correctly, if you do not give them the correct domain knowledge, technology is useless. So domain knowledge with technology is what is going to accelerate. And my last point would be, We are dependent on agriculture. 57% of Pakistan is rural, 40% of our labor force is in agriculture, 19% of agriculture is coming out of our GDP, 19% GDP is agriculture. In 17 years, we will not have water. If we do not refocus ourselves on technology and how to best optimize water and use natural resources properly, we have serious other issues. But we use it today, we can just cut back 20% and you save $6 billion. We don't have to go to IMF. So these are the perspectives of technology and how, so from history, sorry I took longer, but it can only be put in perspective like this.
No, I think this is brilliant. I think you have very well summed up how Pakistan digital infrastructure has grown over years, and sort of you have taken a look at how ChatGPT kind of thing is growing and what Pakistan can learn from it. And I so much agree. I mean, having been working with Pasha and attached with a lot of government ministries for a lot of policy lobbying. But I think this is a job of all of us who have some influence on somebody in the policy making side, because I find a lot of those people who are really eager to understand, eager to learn, because they have their own children who are now talking about ChatGPT, remote jobs, freelancing, digital and stuff, right? So that I think is influence and pressure building up, mounting on everybody. Pakistan today, I think from export perspective, thanks to companies like Asif and others, Pakistan is, I think IT is the second largest exporting thing from Pakistan after textile. And the growth is largest in terms of any other sector. A lot of promise, inshallah, there. We come there. Asif Shah. Asif is the CIO of CDC, Central Depository Company. One prime example of digital transformation. From the times when people used to have the paper shares to the times when people are talking about EIPO, and these are not done by the people under the age of 30. All these stock investments mostly are done by people who are, what Vikas have said, bloomers, right? 40 plus, 50 plus. So technology has a real impact on people who are gray-haired or whatever, right? So Asif, will you talk about what exactly is CDC has done through technology, and is it really safe? Because when you talk about technology, right, the other risk that comes up is my asset secure? May that be hacked? There's a lot of data leaks that we are, sort of coming across lately again. So can you talk about CDC and your sort of, things that are going on there?
जी, thank you Shahzad. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum to everyone. I think काफ़ी लेट हो गया है, तो मैं चाहूँगा कि फास्ट करता रहूँ ताकि वरना सब लोग अब बिल्कुल लास्ट उस पे आ गए. Thanks for the introduction to Central Depository Company, as you have rightly put it, Shahzad. Fortunately, we had this privilege that we can say that we, from the very birth of the organization, are a technology company. We were built through a software that Asif Peer used to develop. I used to be the DBA, and one of my colleagues sitting here is the network administrator back then. So, and perhaps I just want to, for everybody else, that perhaps when we were born at in our times, Asif might be a very fashionable name for the children, which no longer we keep today for our own children. It's no longer a name that we use. So we as CDC, we have been very instrumental in changing the entire landscape of the capital market of Pakistan. There used to be a time, as you have said, that when 1 million shares were traded at the Karachi Stock Exchange, they brought in the shares were brought in a truck, and for 1 week the stock exchange has to be closed off so that they can count and then they can transfer the shares. Today, alhamdulillah, multiple times, billion shares have been traded in the stock exchange, and those are settled without any issue. So it's a 25-year journey, huge investment into infrastructure, into people, because from day one when Systems Limited was working with us, and Asif was also part of that, we bought a Canadian system, but then we decided that it cannot be sustainable to work on that. We transformed that into a local software. And since then, we have been maintaining it, enhancing it, making it free, do every 5 years or so. So this is our journey. And in terms of, as you have mentioned, that an IPO where people fill their shares for any new company that is listed in the stock exchange, it used to be a paper that were given certain amount of days, then you go to a bank, you submit with a check or over the counter with a cash. So now it can be done all in just 5 steps in a WhatsApp transaction as well. Not only through a portal or a mobile app, in a WhatsApp transaction as well. So we are trying as best to make the technology as easier for the people, as you have mentioned, that most of the stock exchange investors are 40 years or 45 years above age person right now. But very recently, we understood this fact that there is this Easy Paisa or Jazz Cash or even Daraz as a platform. They are very big platforms. They have very young customers, youth, female. And we have our platform that we are connected to the asset management companies. We are connected to the stock brokerage houses. Why can't we bridge the gap between these two institutions? So just in last 6 months, we built one such bridge with the asset management companies. And one of the asset management companies, which is our client, who has got 20,000 customers in last 10 years, in just 2 months through the telco-led Easy Paisa app, they had 10,000 new customers. The amount of investment is small, the ticket size is small, but the good thing is that investment is coming into mutual fund from interior Sindh, which we no longer classify as an investment-oriented environment. So the point is that if we continue to bridge such bridges, build such bridges, as we have done for the Roshan digital account, anywhere anybody, Pakistani, can open an account via bank to an stock exchange, to an asset management company. Similarly, the platform has been developed for the local investors to deploy. So technology is very much at the heart of it. Now coming to the security, we have 2 phases of it. The business continuity aspect, the disaster recovery aspect. And you have seen that just in front of our Shah FSL building, one building got fire right from, and just half an hour, it got fire from the bottom to the top of the building, and it's now practically unusable. So we have invested a great lot in the business continuity of the central depository, such that we have 3 data centers, 2 in Karachi and 1 outside Karachi, because we understand that the metro risk for a fire or a local risk are too much more, which can probably happen more frequently. In terms of data security, we have very heavily invested into our own people as well as our clients, because you know that now we are connecting with banks, with brokerage houses, with asset management companies, with issuers. All of this connectivity is digital either through APIs or through shared databases. So we have to ensure that if anybody is weak at the last end, any end, it will hurt us. So we are investing into the not only awareness, but also into the technology investments so that data is secure. We have hired ethical hackers who work throughout the year with us. They try to attack us, and we call it the red team. Besides our own blue team for the defensive purposes, they are the red team. They continuously attack our infrastructure so that we can find our weaknesses and we can plug those. So we are trying to ensure that the data security is taken at the top level, because as today, State Bank might have $3.5 billion or $4 billion worth of cash, but we have almost $30 billion worth of securities in our own infrastructure within the country.
Excellent. So I think one thing that's common across all 4 or 5 panelists is the technology, even today in 2023, has done a lot of massive transformation that's not only you will see on media, but you actually use today. And pretty much all is done by Pakistanis, developed by Pakistanis, and they are of tremendous use. And I think growth, inshallah, is going to be significant. And the bigger element is technology is bringing into the economy those segments of the society which were largely disconnected, disengaged. So we are talking about women, which are pretty much like 49.5%, I think. we talked about Daraz and others, even technology companies, which actually are giving a lot more opportunities for women to work from home and contribute and, play a role in their sort of, economic affairs. Daraz, like it talked about, I think to 9,000 or 20,000? Yeah, 20,000 women who are selling online. 1/4 of them, you said, they're beyond KLI. So this is something that we really need to really see and encourage. And I hope that the policymakers really look at it very carefully and see how can this be supported to really make use of the 220 million population and really help them with economic growth. We just have a very quick 30 seconds answer from each for a few. If you have a crystal ball, can you see how Pakistan, in your context, through you, will be in 2030? Starting Asif, Dr. Shahid, Ehsan, and Asif.
I think I see, I'm also optimistic person, and I see a great opportunity for us if we solve our basic macro level issues. It's in our IT services and IT exports to bringing FDIs through innovation, digital economy, knowledge economy. Because one thing that what as a country we have, which Shahid touched as well, we have people, and in the last forum also we discussed, we have the raw talent. Can we convert that raw talent to the talent which is exportable, not just IT, but as a services export, as a people export, how you can turn those people into a talented youth who can, of course, through education, transformation, it requires a lot of work, but if we start, I think by 2030 we will get some results where services and people export, or IT-enabled services export, will take this country to the next level, because this is the only way, this is the only strategic asset we have, people. But of course, they need to be transformed digitally or any way that they can learn any skill which is exportable, and they can be go and do something and make an impact and raise Pakistan flag.
Excellent. I really think that Pakistan IT will be the largest exporting entity in 2030, the way it is growing. Dr. Shahid.
I would, re-imaging future of tech, I would sincerely request every Pakistani to ensure that whatever we do is digitized. Because if digitization is the future, we have to start digitizing everything that we do. Now that will give you a very serious digital pushback, and those are the people we should be highlighting on social media. What we are highlighting is crisscross politics, which is ridiculous because it's going to get us nowhere. Anybody who stops digitization, and digitization of every aspect, from government to anything and everything that you do, that is re-imaging of future tech, because that's your future.
Excellent. Very, very, very wise things. Ehsan.
Can you hear me now? Perfect. I think Vakar Saab said it really well in the last session, and Asif, I added to it as well, that of course people are the power we have, and the youth is, it can bring a significant amount of value if trained properly. And I think the other thing that we also sometimes undervalue is the fact that we have a lot of issues. So that means there's a lot of problems that are there to solve. And there's a lot of monetizable problems that 220 million people will need resolved. We talked a lot about how we're the 5th largest country, and it's a country, if you have such a big population, and Pakistan is set to be one of the bigger consumer markets by 2030 as well. So there's a lot of problems and issues that are there to be solved. So I'm very optimistic, and I think that's probably one of the links you'll find amongst many leaders, is that you're sometimes hopelessly optimistic. But I think there is a lot of potential here in the next 10 years. Like I said, the people, of course, that Asif I talked about will need to be aligned. And then along with that, I think if we focus on those, then hopefully it's going to be a bright future, inshallah.
Great. Asif.
I think, Shahzad, We are passing through a very interesting time, and as Waqar Saab was saying that मुल्क नाजुक दौर से गुजर के ही नहीं दे रहा, तो वो अब लिटरली ऐसा फील होता है कि ज़ाहिर है हम एक इस वक्त एक ऐसी सिचुएशन में है जो बाज़ाहिर बड़ी क्योटिक सी लग रही है, लेकिन मुझे लग रहा है कि इसके अंदर भी काफ़ी प्रोग्रेस हो रही है. बहुत सारे पुरानी चीज़ें हिल रही हैं, बहुत सारी चीज़ें जो पिछले 50-70 सालों में जिन्हें आप हिला भी नहीं सकते थे वो हिल रही हैं एक्चुअली, सुबह शाम हिल रही हैं. वो अभी हमें एक बहुत क्योटिक वर्जन नज़र आ रहा है, तो हम थोड़े से डिप्रेस हो रहे हैं. हमें इससे भी वरी नहीं करनी चाहिए मेरे नज़दीक के पाकिस्तानी बैग भर भर के बाहर जा रहे हैं. वो इंडियंस भी ऐसे गए थे तभी वो आज इतनी बड़ी बड़ी पोजीशंस पे पहुंच गए हैं. तो वो तो एक टाइम था, वो 50-60 से जा रहे थे, हम लोगों ने शायद 80 से जाना शुरू किया है, तो हमारी ज़ाहिर जर्नी अभी उनसे पीछे है. तो उसमें भी कोई हर्ज नहीं होना चाहिए. अगर एज़ लॉन्ग एज़ हमने दो चीज़ें सेट कर ली, एक तो हो रही है हमारी ऑटोमेटिकली हमारी नई रिलेशनशिप सोसाइटी में मुख्तलिफ स्टेक होल्डर्स की नई रिलेशनशिप सेट हो रही हैं. वो थोड़ी सी टेक्टोनिक प्लेट्स की तरह अभी लग रही हैं, लेकिन वो और सेट हो जाएंगी. अगर हमने कोलैबोरेशन को, जिस तरह हम बात कर रहे थे कि विद इन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, इंटरनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, इंट्रा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कोलैबोरेशन करें, ये हम रीजन में भी अगर कोलैबोरेशन पे आ जाते हैं जिस दिन, उस दिन हमें बहुत चेंज होने शुरू हो जाएंगी चीज़ें. हमारा रीजन बहुत बड़ा है, बहुत यंग रीजन है, इसके अंदर बड़ी एनर्जी है. यही इस वक्त दुनिया का रीजन है. इसमें मैं मिडल ईस्ट को भी शामिल कर रहा हूँ कि वो उसको भी अगर हम कर लें, तो जितना हम रीजनलाइज होने लगेंगे हमें ऑटोमेटिकली बहुत बेनिफिट नज़र आएगा. तो आई सी 2025 से लेकर 2030 तक एक बड़ा अच्छा पीरियड आने जा रहा है. अभी थोड़ा सा क्योस है, बट इंशाल्लाह इससे बेहतरी की तरफ हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं.
So I think, thank you guys. I think we anyway have taken a lot of time. Not that we have done 60 minutes, but I think we should be sensitive of the time that this event today has taken beyond the scheduled one. I think we should call it the sort of the closure. I would not be able to take questions from the audience, would have loved to, but I think it's already 5:35 and we should be closing this panel. Amazing guys, this is a beautiful conversation. Technology for sure has done a lot, and I think in the next 10 years we'll see a lot more happening with the youth of Pakistan going to take charge and bring the real transformation, because digital is nurtured within them. So thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to, may I request Mr. Suhail Wajahad, Mr. Abid Akbar Wazir, along with Mr. Talib Karim to please join us on stage and present mementos to the speakers. May I request Mr. Asif P to please step forward and collect the memento. Dr. Shahid Mahmud, please step forward and collect the memento. Mr. Ehsan Saya, you are requested to please step forward and collect the memento. Syed Asif Shah, you are requested to please step forward and accept the memento. Mr. Shahzad Shahid, you are requested to please step forward and collect the memento.